Okay, welcome. This is the very first opportunity that we've had to have a conversation at a place that I love, Buddy Brew Coffee, about startups, small businesses, entrepreneurship, and really kind of how the county and other government entities working along with our private partners are going to fuel a renaissance of startup businesses in Tampa Bay. And we've got people here at the table, but the key thing about this conversation, and we're going to have this every Friday at Buddy Brew, we may take it on the road, is that we want people who aren't at the table, literally sitting here at the table, to be engaged in the conversation. And so we've got some of the brightest minds in all of county government working with us here using their technology so that you'll be able to watch, listen, ask questions, engage, interact. But the goal here is not to have any one entity trying to control, because it's going to fail if we do that, but allowing really literally the citizens, the taxpayers, people who pay our salaries, who we are work for, to kind of help direct. And so, usually what happens is government comes in and says, we've got the answers, we're going to tell you, and about that time, you start seeing the people peeling off because they don't want to be part of that. What we want to be able to do is work with you, respect every individual, every entrepreneur, every struggling business person, and say, all right, we're going to give you some assistance. We're going to work together collaboratively, and we're going to make Tampa Bay one of the most exciting, unique, dynamic places in the entire daggone world. And so to do that, we got some of the brightest minds on the planet sitting right here at this table. We've got Ron Barton, who heads of the Economic Development Department at the county. He's come in and he's revitalized a Moorbound department, which was great, but kind of limited in their focus and thinking. We've got entrepreneurs sitting here, CEOs who I met at bar camp. Joy, can you tell me about your company?
So New Market Partners actually helps startup companies to grow, and I actually own a security consultancy that specializes in the cybersecurity space. We've an investment in a media holding company, which is software-based. And we're opening a new, accelerator here that we're looking to kick off in another month.
And the why I like Joy was that I was speaking at a bar camp conversation that Joel Lopez, who's sitting over here, helped organize. And I could tell, as I was talking, there's this government guy sitting here on a panel, and I'm watching your eyes roll every third or fourth sentence as I say something, and I'm thinking, I like this person, because she's looking at me and thinking he has no idea what he's talking about. She's raised millions of dollars, started all these companies, and I'm up here on the panel trying to talk about how we're going to help business. And I thought, I got to get to her and find out really what is it that you need and how we can kind of help you help us here locally. Ken Evans is with Startup Monkey and does a lot of other things. Ken's great because Ken was the guy that the county would always tell me, no. You can't talk to him. He's trouble because he's disrupting our process. And when I heard that he was disrupting our process, my first thought was great because I hate our process and I want to disrupt it as much as possible. And Ken actually is a very patient, thoughtful guy who will respond to me at 3 o'clock in the morning when I send him a text and say, help me make the system better. So Ken, why don't you kind of tell us who you are and why you're here?
Well, I also run a consultancy focused on early stage companies and product management and building new products, and have done that for the last 30 years for big companies and small companies. In the last 5 or so years, I focused on helping build the community, make this a more vibrant ecosystem through things like starting up co-working, through working with other entrepreneurs, through volunteering at events like Bar Camp and Startup Weekend and Ignite, where people come together and practice the skill of being a startup. It's very, very important that we get the skills as a community to start new companies and to understand what it takes to start new ventures. And that comes through the community and peer-to-peer support. So a lot of what I've done is try to translate that into very simple models so that we can talk about a bigger community basis. So we can figure out how can government, how can the local municipalities and the regions become involved in that? Where are the pain points and the community so that we can have some level partnership? Where can government help, and where can they stay out of the way? Because it really is the private sector and the market that's going to take over and help this thrive. But we need a little bit of a kickstart. We need kind of an accelerator or accelerators so that there is at least an understanding by the region and by local governments what kind of pains startup businesses go through. And then as they survive and as they thrive, the jobs they create, the high-tech talent that they attract, the high-wage salaries that they pay, and how that just keeps giving over and over back to the community. But you've got to kickstart it, and that's what we've been talking about.
And that's what we're going to do. One of the things that, I mean, we don't, the county has resources, and we're talking about now how we apply those resources. And one of them is going to be to kind of, and Ron's leading this, which is to help kind of retool the economic development department to focus on startups, the startup community, and how we can kickstart. I'm looking at what New York's doing and others. It's fascinating. I met Joel at a function run by Emerge, with a chamber group, and all these young people sitting there, and we're talking about transportation, and there's this guy yelling in the back every time one of us speaks, myself and the mayor, and once again, I thought, you know what, I like this guy. He's speaking up. He's not afraid to, he's not a wallflower, and he also really, though, has a connection with a lot of young, smart, thoughtful individuals who are here in Tampa Bay. Everyone thinks we don't have a workforce. We have a lot of people who are incredibly good at coding and such. And in fact, you do bar camp and code camp, or do you do bar camp only?
I lead Bar Camp. I'm one of the founders. Ken here is one of the founders of Bar Camp as well. I just took a lot of responsibility for it last year.
What is Bar Camp?
Bar Camp is really, in the simplest answer, it's show and tell for adult techies. But in a more complex answer, it's an opportunity for sharing your passions. Whether that, most often that's technology driven, so it's coding. Whether it's Android or iPhone or Ruby on Rails or Python, more often than not, it's open source. But it allows for any technology whatsoever. And frankly, bar camps have included presentations on a variety of subjects that were non-technically related, including, relatively famously, never at ours, how to make the best peanut butter sandwich. So we've had a variety of presentations of, we've had Gartner keynoters who are generally paid $250,000 a year to come, and we've had 2 of those. We've had relatively well-known national speakers. We've had the gentleman who architected everything at Nielsen Media. We've had a whole array of relatively highly skilled individuals, as well as people who are very, very passionate about their skill and their craft. And they're 10 and 20 years into just ordinary coding. They're not a CIO. They weren't a major architect, but they're really passionate about building good code and building good products. And this is where they find like-minded individuals to share that passion, to share that drive, and it's a professional improvement opportunity. It's a free event for the community. We go and raise a lot of money. We actually feed everyone and give everyone a T-shirt. But it's a community building event, so they aren't paying to be there. And it really helps not only all the freelancers, which is what you often think, and a lot of the individual coders, but actually a lot of people at the back of large corporations like Valpak or Raymond James or Tech Data, where they have 500 or 600 employees. We have hundreds of employees who come from those larger institutions because they value this. In fact, several of them follow it around the state wherever it is.
So let me ask you, if you had an opportunity to talk to the head of the economic development department of the county and ask him a question to ask him how he could help our tech community, what would that question be? I mean, what would you direct him? Because he's sitting right there. So I was going to ask you to ask him a question and then let Ron respond.
Well, actually, we've been having a lot of conversations, and they've been listening quite well. So I don't think I need to ask him a question per se. I believe he's been listening to where we're at, which is what do we need to do to support the community, because there is sort of a gap that has been left open for quite some time. And there are a lot of us who want to build companies here, who want to build products here, who want to build new wealth here, and really continue to call Tampa home. But unfortunately, other geographic areas, other cities have been creating better options for us, and we've been losing opportunities. But they've been hearing that message, and they're working very hard to address it. And so I'll let him brag, honestly, because he's been listening very well, and I believe that they're on the verge of proposing something and moving something through that I believe is very much what we want to see.
Cool.
Okay.
Did I tee you up or what?
Thank you, sir. Oh, here's my script. I just do what I'm told. No, I'd like to pick up a little bit with Commissioner's comments. I think when you look back at government's role, I think historically our approach to building prosperity in our community has been very narrow. Say, in respects, very immature in terms of our view about how we enable our economy to be successful. And so I think, the conversations that we've been having, the folks at this table and many others, is really how we can build a more fulsome understanding of how our economy grows. And that's not just large company relocation to our community. And so, recognizing and looking at the industry trend associated with where growth is going to happen. And that's not going to be in these. It's not going to be putting our success in relocation of large-scale companies. So, that's really what we've been doing, is listening to the folks at this table and trying to develop a program that doesn't own the subject. It actually just provides an ability to facilitate and enable the folks at this table. And so I think that's the best role that a county can play, is some seed opportunities, better enabling, maybe a little glue to bring it all together. And so really that's the formula that we hear. And that's kind of the program that we're trying to drive with the commissioner's assistant. It really speaks to it. And so I think with that, certainly we can talk about the elements of it, but it's, that's fundamentals.
I mean, I just think that's transformational in itself. And that when I got here back in 2004, the focus of the county, and legitimately, was to look at, as everyone else is doing, at those large corporate entities that were sitting somewhere else, go with the assistance of the state and others, try to lure them into our community. Oftentimes they were struggling, they were shedding workers, they were looking for a break because they were having problems, and so they'd come to our community, maybe not necessarily give us what we thought we were going to get, and then everyone gets mad because we threw a lot of money at them. So Robin, or Joy, excuse me, what do we do to ignite an entrepreneurial kind of spirit here in our community so that young entrepreneurs can be successful in starting up a company right here in Tampa Bay? Not have to go to Silicon Valley, not have to go to New York, not have to go to Boston, Atlanta, but can do it right here.
Well, I think, we actually are here today. On things like barking, events like Ignite, right? Things that actually are exciting and interesting, because you have to think about the people that are in the community, right? And what entrepreneurs want to see, and they want that. They want those things. We have a great lifestyle. It's actually, from an economic standpoint, the state of Florida is actually a great have a business. So we have a lot of components that, say, for instance, California doesn't have, right? And I don't think a lot of people want to shovel snow in Boston either, so you kind of got the other side of it up there, right? Those are both highly taxed states, right? And in California, ironically, people who start businesses there, they can't protect their intellectual property based on the laws of the state. An individual can leave and go somewhere else and take that IP with them. It's virtually impossible to enforce out there. So we have a lot of good positive things here. I think by putting things back into the community and having ongoing traction, right, in the community. So there's events going on. People begin to know where they go and associate with their like-minded people in the community. Ironically, we do have some other resources here in the community that aren't elsewhere. We've got great groups of people who make fantastic advisors, who are retirees that have come to the community, right? And they live here now, but their Rolodexes are huge. We've got tremendous amount of wealth that could be turned into more angel investments in the community. And it's just kind of putting the pieces together to get those people to come together and start to recognize each other and recognize those efforts.
Do we have the ability to take a small startup and scale it quick? I mean, because what I hear about is this issue of scalability, the ability to take an idea or a concept and grow it so that they can sell product, they can make money, And what I'm hearing is, if you want to do that, you can't do that here. You can take a good idea and you can get it started, but then you got to take it someplace else.
I disagree completely.
I disagree with that.
Well, good.
Completely.
Then tell me.
Because it's in the early stages,
Good.
it's
like
about the talent that you have access to and the density of talent that you have. There are a number of barriers for starting a company that have kind of just they've gone away over time. You don't need big office parks. You don't need big manufacturing facilities. You don't need to worry about a lot of things that supported business in the past. And
so government should not be spending time looking to build out space where you can go and like an incubator of some sort.
No. I mean, early stage companies don't want to pay fixed costs like rent or for a lot of tools and things like that you can provide as a community. So space should be cheap. It should be flexible. People are not. When I started looking for co-working space a couple of years ago, everyone in commercial real estate wanted to lease me 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 square feet because that was the mindset. That was what businesses need. No one wanted or had even availability of small amounts of space that was cheap and flexible. Everyone, and we still have the problem here where commercial real estate is still holding on to pieces of property. They're waiting for the market to rebound. And it may or may not, but they won't rent it. They'll keep it vacant for the time being. Having said all that, small startups don't need that space. They can work here in a coffee shop, and they will.
And they do.
If faced with the option of signing a lease with personal guarantees and spending a lot of money that you could spend on hiring developers, they'll hire developers. As an advisor and a mentor, I think we'd all say, don't get an office. The last thing you want is an office. Yet economic development mindset, not everyone, but certainly the idea is businesses start by signing the lease. And that's not the way that's not the way tech goes. Tech goes by building the product. And so we're looking at a mind shift locally of saying, just build the product. I've met with so many people over the years like, well, I've got to do this, I've got to incorporate, I've got to find out. No, just build the product. Go to Home Depot, go to Michael's, go to Radio Shack, start building the product on this table right here at Buddy Brew if you have to, so you have some concept, some prototype.
Okay, all right, let me ask you
That's a big change in mindset.
You've got Y Combinator, you've got Techstars, you've got these folks that recognize that there are all these ideas, but still to take it from here to there in 90 days is going to require a small infusion of cash, a lot of hard work, and some mentorship. Do we have those type of do we have the type of accelerators here that could help a startup business? Do we have that here in Tampa Bay? Or do you have to get on a plane and fly to San Jose?
No, I think you've got the type of resources. There are certain advantages to Y Combinator and Techstars, but they appeal to a certain segment of entrepreneur that is willing to basically throw everything aside, eat ramen noodles, and do that for 3 months. Not every entrepreneur is going to do that. Not every startup is going to be that. That is a subsegment. And it doesn't mean that someone that does that program won't go back to their own community and continue to build it. We saw that. We had a Y Combinator company here called Woofu. They did a lot of bootstrapping. They went through Y Combinator. They came back to the Bay Area. They built, and then they finally exited their company by selling it to SurveyMonkey for $35 million with a very small infusion of cash. They took $150,000 total and built the company to 12 employees and then turned around and sold it for $35 million. It can be done. But if you've got people telling you can't do it because you don't have space, or you can't do it because you don't have an incubator, or you can't do it because we don't have as much venture capital as Silicon Valley or Boston, then people are going to just scratch their heads and go away. We, the community, are responsible for saying you can do it, go do it.
Okay, so we're the county. We want to kickstart this. What do we do? Because I'm the county, and I'm not the county. I'm part of the county. I'm a small part of the county. But I want to kickstart it. What do we do? What do we do to kickstart the startup community without wasting time and money, so that we can make Tampa Bay that type of place?
Recognize that the government's role is an infrastructure role. So just like providing safe roads, power, and water, the government's involvement can only go as far as the infrastructure. And then the entrepreneurs have to take it from there. So it's accessibility for everyone. And the moment you start building incubators and accelerators and mentoring programs, then you start picking winners, because you can only mentor a certain number of people. So we're going to take this list of 10 or 20 companies, and from that select the 3 best. You know what? I'm not smart enough to select the 3 best. I want to help all 10 of those if they'll step up to the plate. So you have a road that everyone can access, or water that anyone can access. In entrepreneurial terms, that means offices that they can use, startup tools, market research, all these things that you provide to all 10 of the companies that want to step up and spend their time, whether it's weekends, whether it's nights, whether it's during the day. They may have a day job. It doesn't matter. It's the infrastructure that they can choose to use or not to build their product.
I mean, I think Ken's point's very well taken. So, I mean, when you say, is there anything here? We built Velocitude from start to finish in 427 days and sold it to Akamai, the largest content delivery network in the world, right? So, for people to say it can't be done, I don't buy into that. You know, one of my other companies now, Applied G2, we've grown that company from zero, never took a nickel, completely bootstrapped both these companies. You went out and got customers is how you built your business, right? Now, I've raised $300 million in venture capital. Right? It depends on what your business is and where you're at in that process, what you do. But to me, having the support for the entities, you know, that are here, they're supporting the entrepreneurial community, that's really what the county can do. If you look at the events, if you look at the things that are going to bring those entrepreneurs together and facilitate that, those are the kind of things that the county can be involved in. It's a huge leap forward right now. People like you, right, being an advocate for this group, and people like Ron coming in and saying it's actually important, we're going to dedicate resources to it. Because frankly, that just hasn't ever happened before.
I want to really just reinforce that, which is the positive messaging of we can do this. We do have the resources. Instead of a defeatist attitude, a can-do attitude. But on top of it, facilitating general resources. But finally, you can actually take a leadership role, not with money, but with actually relationships. So bringing the community leaders, the corporate leaders to bear, saying that you should come and help play a role and look after and parent some of these companies. Say that you should adopt one or two of these companies and put them inside your corporate entity. So whether it's the corporate leaders like Chuck Sykes, but it's corporate leaders like Jabil Circuit. It's the corporate leaders like Valpak. So if it's a media company, Valpak might house it inside. If it's a manufacturing opportunity, it might be inside Jabil Circuit. You can play a role. Ron can play a role. County can play a role in the conversation and the relationships, and saying we're putting our resources here. We would ask that you as corporate citizens step up and assist us here. We're not taxing you. We're just saying, as good citizens, we would really be delighted if you did this with us.
I mean, we did at Velocity. We actually didn't have an office space for the first 4 months that we had the company. We called a buddy and said, hey, don't you guys have a couple of spare offices over there? Can we come and work on coding and stuff in that space? And they're like, yeah, sure, come on. Right, so we started that, and then the space we took after that was actually an old mortgage office that went defunct, and we could get really cheap rent. So that's where we went, and we knew we had to kind of grow things out. To Joel's point, I said before, if they have like customer bases, so when he was talking about, say, manufacturing and Jabil, I'll give you a great example. How about a young 3D printing company, right, that's come up with a way to prototype things being housed at Jabil to get kickstarted, because now I could come in, I could build my prototype using the 3D printing facility that's there, and now I've got a niche manufacturing that Jabil could now take over beyond that. So there's great ways to kind of help pair those up, and really, if government can get the bigger guys to open up and go, yes, I'd be willing if it was the right opportunity to provide that space, that would be huge.
Let me just amplify that by saying the other role that the government has and economic development has is the bully pulpit, is to get out there and with a mind shift and new metrics, be the thought leader, and saying we are not going to just relocate companies, which is a zero-sum game. We're going to continue to do a little bit of that. We're going to continue to help the lifestyle businesses if someone wants to open a dry cleaner, a CPA firm, or a landscaping firm. But in the middle, we're going to go aggressively after those that want to start up companies that are going to be high-growth companies. And you make sure that mind shift is across all of your business environment. If you look at all the people that are members of the Tampa EDC and Pinellas EDC and that write those membership checks to those organizations in the chamber every year, they've got to be a little disappointed with the performance that we've had economically over the last couple of years. We have not sprung back like Austin. Right. Or like Seattle, or like some of those other. There's a reason.
Community, the Austin community, the Seattle community. One of the things I notice when I go there is young. There's a young mindset. I don't want to say necessarily an age, but there are young entrepreneurs. There's excitement. Mm-hmm. There's an enthusiasm, and some of it springs from the university. When I went to the USF and met with students there, there's this Createch organization. It was fascinating, and I talked to them, and they thought I was like an alien from another planet when I said I'm from the county. The county, what's that? What do you do? There was no relationship whatsoever. And then I kind of asked them, and I met one young man, Louis Baptista, who was getting ready to start a company. He was looking for help. He didn't know where to start, and he really didn't want to interact necessarily with the county. But we were able to kind of help him out a little bit. But how do we get that community engaged? How do we get them excited about what's happening? Because I'm worried that what happens is you get these great young people from UT. They got this entrepreneurship program, which is amazing. But I don't know if when they're done, they're going to stay. I think they're going to go running back to Boston or wherever they came from. How do you engage them? How do you get them involved in this?
Do we have an image that is engaging for them?
No.
Well, okay, first of all, you've got to change the image and the message. The way to do that is you got to have to change the mindset. We have a mindset for big companies, big service companies, and no one wants to get out of school and go to work for a service company. People want to build cool products.
Right.
Even if they're a marketing person, not a technical person, they want to be associated with bringing cool products to market. We are not a product economy here. We're a service economy. Change that somewhat, and you start to get people interested in staying and interested in working on cool jobs. You also, that ripples back into the education and academia, because they start servicing the students that want to build products.
So how do we kickstart the product economy?
The product economy?
Yes.
First, we have to open up to say we're not doing it correct. We're not doing it correctly today. We have an economic development and an economic landscape which is perfect for service companies, and service companies do not serve us well in the long term. This is a 10, 20-year effort to start becoming a more balanced economy, but we've got to start somewhere. We've got a good base of technical talent here now, but it doesn't show up anywhere in our strategy. It doesn't show up anywhere in our discussions about our business economy.
And that's what Ron's doing.
That's the mindset.
Lindsay's standing over there. You'll be seeing more of Lindsay. She's amazing. And Ron hired her.
Everyone talks about changing brand. As Joy knows, you don't just go put lipstick on the pig and change the brand.
Right.
You change the product, and the experience with that product becomes your new brand. Our brand is dismal because our product is seen as old, stale, not innovative. Change the product first. And again, it's more than just beaches. It's more than just sand. It's more than just sunshine.
Joel, what do you see? You're ready to say something.
Well, it's two sets of things, and I think that both can. First of all, I think right now our economy is sort of at risk, and I think they both can speak to that very, very well, and I'd like them to, because many of our largest players that we have here in town are really a cost center for someone else who has a direct relationship with the customer. So Chuck Sykes is a call center, and they're a cost center for Microsoft. So if there's a cheaper solution, Microsoft will go elsewhere. If Jabil Circuit is a contract manufacturer, and Joy can actually speak to that personally, and so if you have an alternative place, they'll go there. So we have a lot of companies that are here and established locally, but they don't have a direct customer relationship, and they represent a cost center to someone else, a larger entity, and they live on a thin margin. So there's not a premium opportunity for wealth creation locally. So our economy is constricted by that. The second thing is, by the new plan that they're putting in place, they're mostly focusing on the high skill, high wage, high growth companies that already are, we'll hopefully nurture some here, but hopefully the ones that we lure here in the future are the companies with between 3 and 50 employees, but are already profitable. But they have the opportunity to scale to be 100 to 300. But instead of luring somebody we're moving 500 jobs here, we're luring somebody who we can easily transplant. But the real growth is going to occur here. And those are the 7.
So what does Ron do? What do we do? What does Ron and Lindsay and the economic development do to track that scalable 3 to 10 that's going to grow?
Our favorite thing that we've been batting around for quite some time is we're really good at conventions already. We have almost none that are high tech presently. We could target about 50 to 75 of those that the majority of attendees are exactly the kind of company we're talking about.
Lindsay, are we going to do that?
We've been working with Lindsay, actually, giving her the list.
I mean, one of the things we are trying to do, and we're going to do through this, we're going to figure this out, is how people can dial in here or click onto the Economic Development Department's webpage, which is going to be really sharp, and get information that helps them kind of like connect. I mean, part of what you're saying is just better connections, and more events, and better communication of the events. Is that correct?
And a broader community discussion that's really ongoing, that really engages the full depth and breadth of your full community. All the universities, all the high schools, all the various parts of the technology community.
I want that guy in the
You need that guy.
All the various parts of the technology community, all the entrepreneurs. I mean, so they're all part of a big. There's way too many pockets and fragmented communities that aren't part of a greater whole. And that's another thing that the county and the government can do, is they can play a role in being a unifying force and say this is a discussion we're committed to. This is something you want to be committed to. We're going to lead this discussion, but we welcome your participation. And we're just like we do with a master plan laying out for real estate. We can do that same thing. We're not permanently, but what are our principles? Engage all of the major players in that discussion. And that, Ron.
Some of the common themes there, but bully pulpit was one of the conversations, and basically integrating the importance of this in your overall strategy. Here's one example. Joel just talked about it. The fact is that the county, through the TDC funding, sends $8 million to Tampa Bay and Company to market our community. Well, the fact is, you can use that effectively. We've never effectively tied our destination marketing to our business marketing. And so this is a perfect example Joel just talked about, that you can use that effectively, those marketing dollars, for business reasons. So yeah, we want to put people in our community in a hotel room, but we can also better link that with our economic development strategy. So the fact that we push this topic to the top of our list, and then we link all of our efforts to that, that's the way we change. So I just wanted to pick up on Joel's comment there.
Well, I mean, we're getting ready to close. I think the key is that, I'd like to see, and we're seeing it, and I really want to thank Ron, because the one thing that I've found is that we've got staff that really gets it, wants to work with our community. I want to see more of a relationship between the public and private sector, more communication, more dialogue, but also more activity. And so if you're sitting out there and you're watching this and you want to get engaged, I want you to be able to contact us, say that you're here, but also kickstart this community. I mean, I go to bed at night frustrated that we haven't done more. The challenge is I oftentimes don't know what the more is. It's like, I want to do more, but what, and I don't want to hurt the process, but I know there's more that we can do. I know that you're trying and you all are trying. And so we're going to have a conversation. This is just a start. And I want to thank everybody for being here. And I think we're going to do some good things.
We're here every Friday.
Every Friday, coffee,
Yeah.
Buddy Brew. Get your cup of coffee.